In this video, we're going to write a better version of our Hello World program. So remember, the first Hello World we did was just with a message box. So it was a little cheated. But now we're going to write one with a true window. And you will learn about how to catch events, how to use controls on your windows, and so on. But one step after the other. So we first create here a new BBJ source file. And we call it Hello World 2. So it's our Hello World 2 program. And now this time we're gonna write it in a more comprehensive, complete way with a window, and we put a button on it. And when you push the button, we're gonna greet the user with a message. And so you will learn how to create a window and how to add a button on it and catch the event. So first of all, in order to start a graphical BBJ program, what we're going to need is to get an instance of the BBJ API, and I do it in an explicit way here. API equals BBJ API, and then the API has a branch, which is responsible for the graphical user interface, which is the sysGUI interface or classes. And so we can also get one of these by asking the API to get the sysGUI branch, and then there is a verb called open sysGUI x0. So don't be too surprised about the x0, just take it for granted. You always have to give it. It's for some legacy reasons, and there is some configuration options behind it, which are not of interest at this moment. So you have already noticed that there was no code completion, and if you watch the other videos, you know why. It is because we didn't yet declare our variables. But since we think it's a good idea to declare the variables and we want to get code completion support, I can go ahead and say declare BBJ API, declare BBJ sysGUI, and now we will get code completion and get some assistance in creating the window. So in order to create a window, there are various options that you could go, but the simplest one is to just create a window in a certain size on screen. And there is a statement for that, which is called add window. And you see here it's coming with a few parameters. Basically, it's an X and a Y precision, and it's a size, a width, and a height. So we make it 640 times 480 height. And then we say Hello World as a headline. And if you're unsure about the add window, remember there's the keyword help interface. So you can just go here and put the cursor on the add window, and it will point you to the documentation. And there you can read about all the different signatures that the add window has. And there's flags and strings and stuff that you can define. But for now, we can live very well with this very simple signature here. So of course, the sysGUI add window gives us a variable back. So we assign it to the WND. And what it gives us back is an instance of a BBJ top level window. So we declare it. And now, in order to have this program running, all we need to do is we need to wire the first event, which is always fired when the user hits the close box of the window. Because what happens now, let me quickly show that. I put in an escape. Escape is a statement which lets drop the program to console, but without losing its state. So after an escape, if there would be more code, you could continue running it. So it's a poor man's debugging facility, which is sometimes very useful because in the console you can quickly query variables and stuff. We deal with that in a later session, but for now, to show you what happens here, I just put in escape. I run the program, and you see there's my window with the hello world. The program is dropped to console, but there is one event that we want to wire first, which is when the user clicks this close button here, we want to close the window and terminate the program. So this is the first milestone we want to reach. For that purpose, we say window dot, and there's a keyword that will be with you all the time when you do graphical programs, which is called set callback. This is how you register for an event on a BBJ object, be it a window, a button, something else. So in this case, since we're not writing an object-oriented program, but a scripted program, I call them scripted, procedural, maybe another term. We need this second signature. There's another one which takes an object and a method in the object for targeting the event. But in this case, we just need this one. And so first of all, it takes the event type. On close is the one we need here in this case. And we give it a label, call the label bye-bye. Now we need to add this label bye-bye here. So labels in BBJ syntax are followed by a colon. So bye-bye colon means jump there whenever the label bye-bye is referenced, which we did here in the event. And here we just say release or bye. So one of those keywords that terminate the process. And then there's one statement missing here in the middle, which is basically the event loop. This is called process events. So process events means stop here and wait until something happened that I am interested in, which the program did register a callback with that callback before. So we execute the program. And you see here's our window. It doesn't do much, but I can close it and it disappears. So one hint with the set callback, you see that I used the BBJ API directly to have the onClose referenced. The onClose is basically the constant which says I want to register a close event number or event constant. And there is a downside, which is probably an oversight from the past. By having all these event constants under the BBJ API, it's not easy for you to determine from the code completion which one goes with my window, because the BBJ API offers you events that go with buttons or like list boxes or combo boxes or whatever. And so what you will want to do, especially in the beginning, is you will want to use the keyword help and then here go to the BBJ top level window documentation page and then scroll down, and sometimes there is a direct section on the page, events in a separate page. So sometimes it's on the main page itself, sometimes it's a separate page, and in this case it's a long list, and so they made it a separate page, and you see here our onClose event is what goes with the BBJ top level window. And there's more information about the event object that you receive, but for now, important to know, look in the documentation to be sure which events you have for a certain control. So now one thing we want to do to complete this exercise is we want to add a button. And again, we use the pixel-oriented way of kind of assigning a button or adding a button to our window. So we want to create a variable btn equals, and there is the add button, and here in this case we need to give the button an ID. So 100 is an ID, and we put it in the top left corner, 10, 10, 250, 25, and we write on it push me. So again, we're going to declare our button up here to later on be able to use code completion. But before we continue, we just verify that it works. So here's my button. It doesn't do much, but it has been added. And now we can add an event. So what do we write here? I put all the event routines together. btn bank dot, you may guess already. Set callback is the work we need. And we need bbj API dot on. And very often some of the events start with the control type. So the one we need here is on button push. And we give it a label pushed. And we put it here in the middle to have the release being the last thing in the program. So again, we introduce the label pushed colon. And what we're going to do is here we're going to repeat the message box statement from last time. This time we're going to We're going to add 2 more signatures to also give it a nice headline. And now we say return. So in case of such a program which has labels, the jumping to such a label is done from the process events routine. And when you're done with it, use the return statement to return to the process events and to continue the event loop, waiting for the next event. So exercising this, we're going to push the run button. Now here's our message box again with a nice headline this time. And there are more options. Read about it in documentation and then play a bit with the message box. And I can exercise this multiple times. Whenever I push the button, the process events goes to that pushed routine and the return sends it back to the process events. And now when I hit the cross button, it's going to the bye-bye and releases the interpreter. So also this program runs in the browser. Again, I can use the spider web, run it in buoy, or I can harvest that URL again and also exercise it on the desktop. By the way, if this doesn't work for you directly and you see an error message, it may mean that the desktop name or the name of the computer configured in your environment is not resolving in the browser. What you can always try to do in such a case is use localhost, and that should work in 99% of the cases for you. So if the name doesn't work, then use localhost at this point.